Ever get that feeling that there's maybe more to shaping your life than just, what happens to you? Like
Hmm.
maybe there's some kind of inner engine driving your character, your opportunities, maybe even how healthy you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, for this deep dive, we're tackling a book one of you shared with us, and it gets right to the heart of that exact idea.
Yes, we're delving into James Allen's As a Man Thinketh. It's a short book, quite concise, but wow, it's just brimming with powerful ideas about the impact of our internal world.
It really is. The core idea, right from the get-go, is that our thoughts aren't just like random noise bouncing around in our heads.
Not at all.
They are the fundamental ingredients shaping pretty much everything: your personality, the situations you find yourself in, your physical well-being, and ultimately, where you're headed. It's
Mhm.
this notion that you become quite literally what you consistently think about.
Precisely. Allen paints this picture, suggesting our minds are constantly at work, sort of weaving together both who we are internally, I think he calls it our garment of character, and also the external circumstances we experience. And what's really empowering, I think, is his point that if we haven't liked the fabric we've been weaving, well, we can choose new threads.
We can change the pattern.
Exactly. Create something better.
That's a really encouraging thought, isn't it? So in our time together today, we're going to explore the different facets of this. We'll draw from the book's insights on how thoughts sculpt character,
Hmm.
how they influence what happens to us, our health, the crucial role of having a purpose,
Yeah, that's key.
how thinking impacts achievement, the power of our dreams, our ideals, and finally, this idea of finding uh, serenity.
And our goal is really to extract the most impactful ideas from the book for you. Think of it as getting the essential wisdom, those aha moments, hopefully, and some practical takeaways without getting too bogged down in every single detail.
Okay, so let's jump right into that core idea then, thought and character. The book states, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Sounds simple maybe, but what's the real practical meaning behind that for us?
Well, what's striking about that statement is how absolute it sounds. Alan isn't just saying thoughts influence who we are, he's saying we are the sum total of our thoughts.
Wow.
Character isn't some fixed thing we're born with, but it's the ongoing result, the outcome of how we habitually think. Uh, like a plant grows from a seed, he says. Every aspect of our being, our experiences, it all originates in these hidden seeds of thought.
Hidden seeds.
So the key insight here is that your personality isn't set in stone. It's something you're actively building, really, with every thought.
And it's not just those big conscious choices we make in our minds, is it? The book points out that even those like snap judgments or seemingly unconscious actions still have their roots in our deeper thought patterns.
Exactly. Alan views our actions as the blossoms of thought, right? And the experiences we have, both the good and the bad, those are the fruits.
Blossoms and fruits, I like that.
It's a continuous cycle. Thought leads to action, which then shapes our reality. He uses this powerful image of a gardener. We are constantly cultivating the garden of our minds, and we will inevitably harvest whatever we plant there.
That's a strong metaphor. So if you find yourself in a tough spot, the book suggests you shouldn't just look at what's happening around you,
Right.
but also look inward. Look at the thoughts that might have played a part in creating that situation.
Precisely. The book says man is a growth by law and not a creation by artifice. What's crucial there is the idea of a direct, unwavering cause and effect relationship in our thoughts, just like in the physical world.
Okay.
A strong character isn't an accident. It's the result of consistently choosing positive thoughts. And conversely, negative thinking leads to negative aspects of character. It's quite direct.
Okay, so we're the builders of our own character through thought. But then the book goes on to discuss how our thoughts impact our circumstances. This is where it gets really interesting, I think, for anyone wondering, why their life is the way it is.
It really does. Alan uses that garden comparison again. If we don't actively cultivate it with useful, positive thoughts,
Yeah.
it will naturally be taken over by the weeds of negative and unproductive thinking. So just as a gardener decides what to grow, we can learn to manage our mental garden, choosing what we allow to take root.
And the reward for this mental gardening is a change in our external circumstances. It sounds almost too simple, maybe?
Well, not necessarily simple to do, but a direct consequence, according to the book. Thought and character are one, it says.
Right.
And because our character expresses itself through our environment, our external conditions will always eventually align with our internal state.
Always.
That's the argument. It doesn't mean every single event is a direct reflection of your entire character right now, but rather that your circumstances are deeply connected to some dominant thought patterns within you, often serving as a temporary but maybe necessary part of your growth. So the key takeaway is your outer world mirrors your inner state.
So if things around you feel chaotic or negative, instead of just, blaming external factors,
Hmm.
we should really be looking at the internal thought element that might be contributing.
Exactly. The book emphasizes that every man is where he is by the law of his being. The thoughts which he has built into his character have brought him here.
Wow, that's blunt.
It is. There's no real element of chance in this view in how our lives unfold. It's largely a result of this underlying law of thought. And often we find ourselves in uncomfortable situations so that we can learn something, so we can evolve. Once we understand the spiritual lesson, as he puts it, within a situation, the circumstance itself may change.
Hmm. Have you ever felt trapped by your circumstances? Well, this next part of the book offers a kind of surprising perspective on why that might be. The book also talks about how self-control and self-purification lead to changes in our circumstances. Can you explain that a bit more?
What's key here is recognizing that we aren't just passive victims of what happens around us. When we become aware of our own creative power and learn to control the hidden soil and seeds of our being, which are our thoughts,
Right. The garden again.
then we become the rightful master of ourselves. Anyone who has truly practiced self-control, Alan suggests, will have noticed a direct link between their changed mental state and changes in their life.
Okay.
He suggests our soul attracts what it secretly harbors, what it loves, and also what it fears. Our thoughts, whether we plant them intentionally or just kind of let them fall into our minds, eventually grow into actions and produce the fruits of our circumstances. Essentially, Alan is talking about the disciplined effort of killing off our negative thought patterns.
So good thoughts really do lead to better outcomes, and the opposite is also true. It's like that saying, you reap what you sow, but applied squarely to our mental landscape.
Exactly like that. The book stresses that the outer world of circumstance shapes itself to the inner world of thought. Both pleasant and unpleasant external conditions serve a purpose in our overall development.
A purpose. Even the bad stuff.
Yes. We learn through both positive and negative experiences, guided by our dominant desires and thoughts. Whether we pursue fleeting, unworthy desires or focus on strong, noble goals, we will eventually see their fruition and fulfillment in our lives.
And it's not just bad luck or fate that puts people in difficult situations like poverty or crime. The book seems to reject that idea.
No, not at all. The book is quite clear that these are the results of groveling thoughts and base desires. Similarly, a person with pure thoughts doesn't suddenly commit a crime just because of external pressure. The criminal thought had long been secretly fostered in the heart.
So circumstances don't create who we are.
They reveal who we are. That's the idea. Our thoughts and actions are the jailers of fate when they are negative, but they become the angels of freedom when they are noble. We earn our circumstances, essentially, through our inner world.
This is a pretty direct challenge to the idea of just being unlucky, isn't it? The book seems to put the responsibility firmly back on the individual.
It really does. Alan argues that fighting against our external circumstances without dealing with the thoughts behind them is, well, pointless.
Like trimming weeds.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like constantly cutting the leaves off a weed without pulling out the root. Real, lasting change comes from improving ourselves, from engaging in what he calls self-crucifixion.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a strong term. It means the willingness to give up negative ways of thinking. Even someone whose only goal is to get rich, he points out, has to make personal sacrifices. So how much more important is it for someone aiming for a strong and balanced life to manage their thoughts?
The book even gives examples, like the poor person who avoids work, or the wealthy person who won't give up unhealthy habits even though they're sick. These show how our deep-seated thought patterns can undermine our desires for a better life.
Exactly. These examples highlight that we are often unknowingly creating our own difficulties. We sabotage our good intentions by holding on to thoughts and desires that are fundamentally at odds with our goals. And while things might not always appear as they truly are, just on the surface, the book assures us that there is a just and natural order at play underneath it all.
So, even if we see someone who seems, dishonest, succeeding, the book suggests we need a deeper understanding of the situation, not just judge by appearances.
Absolutely. Judging things only by what we see on the surface can be misleading. Someone who is dishonest in one area might have admirable qualities in another, while someone who appears honest might have hidden negative traits. Ultimately, everyone experiences the consequences of their own thoughts and actions, both the good and the bad.
So we shouldn't assume.
Right. We might be tempted to think we're suffering because we're such good people, but Alan suggests that true understanding comes when we've cleared out negative thoughts and recognize the great law which is absolutely just at work in our lives.
And this law, as the book describes it, is as reliable in our minds as, say, the physical laws of nature are in the world around us,
Yeah.
like gravity.
Yes. Just as we know we can't grow corn from weeds, positive thoughts and actions will consistently lead to positive results and negative ones to negative results. Suffering in this sphere is always a sign of wrong thought.
Always.
Always a sign. It shows us that we are out of harmony with ourselves and the fundamental principles of our being. Its purpose, therefore, is to help us become pure, to burn away the dross, so to speak.
That's a powerful way to think about suffering. Not pointless pain, but a signal. So when we reach a state of inner purity, suffering essentially becomes unnecessary.
That's the implication. Just as you wouldn't need to refine gold once it's already pure, a completely pure and enlightened person, according to Alan, wouldn't experience suffering. The challenging circumstances we face are a reflection of our own internal lack of balance. While positive circumstances arise from inner harmony, true wealth, he says, isn't really about money. It's about this inner blessedness, which is the result of correct thinking, just as unhappiness comes from incorrect thinking, regardless of how much stuff we own.
The book then moves to the effect of thought on health and the body. Now, this connection between our mental state and our physical well-being is something we hear a lot about today, isn't it?
We do.
What are the key insights from As a Man Thinketh on this? It was written a long time ago.
And yet, Alan presents a very direct link. The body is the servant of the mind. He says it faithfully reflects our dominant thought patterns, whether we choose them consciously or they just sort of happen automatically.
Okay.
Negative thoughts, especially what he calls unlawful thoughts, can lead to illness and decay, while glad and beautiful thoughts can promote youthfulness and beauty. He even makes the really strong statement that thoughts of fear have been known to kill a man as speedily as a bullet.
Wow. That's a powerful statement indeed. And it definitely resonates with what we know now about how stress and anxiety can really take a physical toll.
Absolutely. Anxiety, the book points out, quickly weakens the body and makes it more susceptible to sickness. Even impure thoughts, he argues, even if we don't act on them physically, can damage our nervous system.
Really?
That's his claim. On the other hand, strong, pure, and happy thoughts build up the body in vigor and grace. The body is seen as this delicate and responsive instrument that readily reacts to the impressions of our thoughts. So the central idea here is really a healthy body starts with a healthy mind.
So taking care of our physical health isn't just about, what we eat and how much we exercise, although that's important.
Of course.
It's also fundamentally about nurturing a healthy mind.
That's a core message here. Alan argues that as long as we hold on to unclean thoughts, our physical body will reflect that impurity. Out of a clean heart comes a clean life and a clean body, he writes. Out of a defiled mind proceeds a defiled life and a corrupt body. He even suggests that just changing your diet won't truly help if you don't also change your thoughts. True purity begins on the inside.
And what about how we look? Our appearance. The book touches on how our thoughts can actually show up in our faces and our overall physical presence.
It's quite remarkable. The book observes that our habitual thoughts literally shape our physical appearance over time. Negative thoughts create a negative expression, while emotions like malice, envy, and sadness rob the body of its health and beauty, contributing to things like wrinkles.
Makes sense.
Alan compares a 96-year-old woman with a bright, innocent face to a younger man with unharmonious features, attributing it entirely to their inner states, one positive and joyful, the other full of negativity and discontent. It's a reminder that our inner world is constantly being communicated outwardly, even in ways we might not consciously realize.
It's like our inner state is constantly being broadcast on our faces and in our bodies, whether we realize it or not. Sort of like a living billboard for our thoughts.
Precisely. Just as a house needs fresh air and sunlight to stay healthy, our bodies need the free admittance into the mind of thoughts of joy and goodwill and serenity to be strong and vibrant. The book even suggests we can understand the nature of a person's life by looking at the lines on their face, those formed by compassion versus those etched by negative emotions.
And the ultimate prescription for a healthy body, according to the book, isn't a pill or some external treatment, but a state of mind.
Yes. Allen declares, there is no physician like cheerful thought for dissipating the ills of the body. There is no comforter to compare with goodwill for dispersing the shadows of grief and sorrow.
Wow.
Dwelling on negative thoughts is likened to being trapped in a self-made prison hole, while cultivating positive, selfless thoughts is like opening the very portals of heaven and bringing abounding peace to ourselves. So a key takeaway here is just the profound healing power of positive thinking, according to Allen.
Okay, moving on. The conversation then shifts to thought and purpose.
Yeah.
How does the book connect these two ideas for us, thought and purpose?
The connection Allen makes is that without a clear purpose, our thoughts lack direction. They lack effective use. He compares thought without purpose to a ship just drifting aimlessly on the ocean of life.
Adrift, yeah.
This lack of direction, he argues, is actually a vice that can lead to being overwhelmed by trivial worries, fears, self-pity, ultimately resulting in failure and unhappiness. So a defined purpose acts as an anchor for our thoughts.
So having a clear purpose acts as a kind of anchor, yeah. Stopping thoughts from just drifting around aimlessly, getting pulled here and there.
Exactly. A defined purpose becomes the centralizing point for our thoughts. Whether it's a big spiritual ideal or more practical goal in the world, the key is to steadily focus our mental energy on it, making it our supreme duty. This focused application of thought is presented as the royal road to self-control and true concentration.
And even if we face obstacles like major setbacks in pursuing our purpose, the effort itself still provides valuable benefits for us. It's not wasted.
Absolutely not wasted. Even if we experience setbacks, the strength of character gained through that focused effort is a significant achievement in itself. It builds a stronger foundation for whatever comes next.
Okay.
And for those who aren't yet ready for some grand purpose, Allen suggests focusing on doing their current tasks faultlessly, no matter how small they might seem. This helps develop the focus and energy needed for bigger accomplishments later on.
It sounds like developing a sense of purpose is almost like mental weightlifting, building our focus and resilience.
That's a great analogy. The book explicitly states that just as a physically weak person can become strong through training, someone with weak thoughts can strengthen them by exercising himself in right thinking and by adopting a clear purpose.
Okay.
Shifting from aimless thinking to purposeful thought is seen as joining the ranks of those who view failure not as the end, but as a learning opportunity, and who actively shape their circumstances instead of being shaped by them.
Once we have a purpose then, how does the book advise us to direct our thoughts towards actually achieving it?
Allen emphasizes mentally mapping out a straight pathway to our goal, and crucially, resolutely excluding doubts and fears.
Aw, doubt and fear, the big ones.
He describes them as disintegrating elements that undermine our efforts. He asserts that thoughts of doubt and fear never accomplished anything, and they inevitably lead to failure. True power to act, he says, comes from knowing that we can do, while doubt and fear just erode that confidence.
So really conquering those feelings of doubt and fear is absolutely crucial. If we want to achieve our goals, you can't just ignore them.
No, you have to conquer them. He who has conquered doubt and fear has conquered failure. That's the claim. Their thoughts then become allies in their pursuit of purpose, enabling them to face challenges bravely and overcome them intelligently. When thought is fearlessly allied with purpose, it becomes a creative force,
A creative force.
transforming us from someone just driven by passing thoughts to a conscious and intelligent director of our own mental powers.
This leads us nicely into the next section, the thought factor in achievement. The book seems to argue that our thoughts are really the main factor determining what we achieve, or, conversely, what holds us back.
That's the core argument, yes. In what the book describes as a justly ordered universe, where imbalance would lead to total chaos, individual responsibility is paramount. Our strengths and weaknesses, our positive and negative qualities, they are our own creations, shaped by our thoughts,
Right.
and changeable only by ourselves. Our circumstances, our experiences of suffering or happiness are likewise evolved from within. It's a really strong emphasis on our personal power and responsibility.
It is a really strong emphasis. So the book suggests that even when we see someone struggling, ultimately they are responsible for their own situation. How does that sit?
Well, while acknowledging that someone stronger can offer support, the book really emphasizes that true and lasting change must come from within the individual. The person struggling needs to actively build their own strength. Allen even challenges the idea of blaming external oppressors, suggesting instead that both the oppressor and the oppressed are kind of cooperators in ignorance,
Cooperators in ignorance.
each contributing to the situation through their own state of mind. So, to rise and achieve, the key is always to lift up our thoughts above negativity and limiting beliefs.
So to really improve our lives and achieve our goals, the key is to consciously lift up our thoughts, get them above the negativity and any beliefs that hold us back.
Precisely. We will only remain weak and unhappy, Alan says, if we refuse to elevate our thinking. Even for just worldly success, he argues, we must give up slavish animal indulgence, maybe bad habits, laziness, and begin to control our thoughts.
Hmm.
True success, the book argues, is directly related to our willingness to sacrifice confused and negative thoughts and focus our minds on our goals, strengthening our determination and self-reliance. The more we elevate our thoughts, the more virtuous we become, and the more meaningful and lasting our achievements will be.
The book also touches on how the universe itself seems to respond differently to different kinds of thoughts. It almost suggests it favors thoughts that are virtuous.
Yes, it does imply that. While it might sometimes seem that the greedy or dishonest prosper, Allen contends that ultimately the universe supports those who are honest, generous, and virtuous. He points to the wisdom of great teachers throughout history who have echoed this principle.
Okay.
Intellectual and spiritual achievements, too, are presented as the natural outcomes of focused and virtuous thought, not just raw ambition or external advantages. So, achievement of any kind is seen as the crown of effort and the diadem of thought.
So whether it's success in our careers or maybe a deeper sense of inner peace, it's all seen as the crown of effort and the diadem of thought, the result of thinking.
Exactly. Whether we achieve worldly success or spiritual understanding, it comes through self-control, determination, purity, integrity, and well-directed thought. Conversely, negative traits lead to a decline in strength and success.
Right.
And even after achieving success, the book warns against pride and corruption, as these can lead to a rapid downfall. All achievements, regardless of what kind they are governed by the same principle: focused thought and consistent effort.
Okay, finally, the book explores visions and ideals and this concept of serenity. How do these final pieces fit into the overall idea of our thoughts shaping our lives? Let's start with visions.
Allen highly values dreamers and their visions. He calls them the saviors of the world.
Saviors, strong word.
It is. He suggests that just as the physical world is supported by the unseen, humanity is nourished by the beautiful ideals of those who dare to dream. These visions aren't just fantasies, he argues, but realities which it shall one day see. He gives examples like Columbus, Copernicus, Buddha. Their visions ultimately changed the world.
Hmm.
It's the idea that what we hold in our minds, our deepest aspirations, has the power to eventually manifest in reality.
It's that powerful idea that what we truly hold in our minds, our deepest hopes and dreams, has a real power to actually become our reality, not just wishful thinking.
Precisely. He encourages us to cherish our visions and ideals, the music that stirs in our heart, because out of them will grow all delightful conditions. He states unequivocally that to desire is to obtain, to aspire is to achieve.
Desire is obtain, aspire is achieve.
Our vision is the promise of what we shall one day be, and our ideal the prophecy of what we shall at last unveil. Even the most significant accomplishments, he says, started as dreams in someone's mind. So even when your current circumstances seem difficult, holding on to a compelling ideal can be a really powerful driver for change.
So even when things around us look tough, maybe bleak, just holding on to a powerful ideal, a vision, can be a real catalyst for positive change.
Absolutely. The book shares this inspiring little story of a young man trapped in poverty who dreamed of a better life, intelligence, refinement, grace. His focused thoughts on that ideal eventually lifted him out of his limiting circumstances and into a position of great influence. It illustrates the principle that we cannot travel within and stand still without. Our inner transformation, fueled by our visions, inevitably leads to changes in our external reality.
And the book concludes with this idea of serenity as the ultimate result, maybe, of this journey of consciously managing our thoughts.
Yes, serenity is presented as one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. It's the result of long and patient effort and self-control.
Takes effort.
It does. It signifies a deep understanding of ourselves as being shaped by our thoughts, and also a recognition that others are products of their own thoughts, too. This understanding allows a calm person to adapt to others and to remain poised, steadfast, serene, no longer reacting with anxiety, worry, or sadness.
It's the powerful idea that real strength comes not from controlling what's outside of us, the world around us, but from having mastery over what's happening within us, our own minds.
Exactly. The book suggests that the more peaceful a person becomes internally, the greater their positive influence and power actually becomes in the world. Even in business, he suggests, this inner calm leads to greater success.
Interesting.
Ultimately, serenity is described as the last lesson of culture, the fruitage of the soul, more valuable than any amount of material wealth. It's about residing in this state of inner peace that remains untouched by the tempests of life, as he puts it.
It really sounds like this whole journey of consciously shaping our thoughts, as a man thinketh lays it out, ultimately leads to this incredible state of inner peace and self-mastery.
That's the powerful message of the book, really. It's an invitation for you, the listener, to take responsibility for your inner world, recognizing that your thoughts are not just fleeting mental occurrences,
Right.
but the very architects of your life. Ultimately, as a man thinketh kind of boils down to this. Control your thoughts, control your destiny. Your mind is the architect of your reality.
So to really summarize the core message of this book, As a Man Thinketh, it all comes down to this powerful idea that you are the master of your thoughts. And because of that, you are ultimately the shaper of your own life.
Precisely. The book meticulously shows how connected our inner and outer worlds really are. It highlights that direct link between your thoughts and your character, that, a man is literally what he thinks.
Yeah.
It explains how your thoughts act like those seeds that grow into your actions and produce the fruitage of opportunity and circumstance.
And it doesn't stop there, does it? The book draws that clear connection between our thought patterns and our physical health, suggesting positive thoughts contribute to well-being, while negative ones can actually lead to illness.
That's right. Furthermore, it emphasizes how crucial having a purpose is for focusing your thoughts and really driving your achievements. Without that clear purpose, your thoughts can just drift aimlessly, potentially leading to negative outcomes.
And the power of our dreams and aspirations, those visions and ideals, they're presented as the very seedlings of realities, aren't they? The
Yeah.
initial blueprints for what we are capable of becoming.
And finally, serenity emerges as the ultimate reward, you could say, of self-control and a deep understanding of how our thoughts govern our lives. It's that state of inner peace and balance that comes from mastering our mental landscape.
What really stands out to me is how actionable these ideas feel. It's not just some abstract philosophy up in the clouds. It's an encouragement to really look at our own thought patterns, your own thought patterns, and see the immense potential for conscious change.
That's a key takeaway, I think. Alan provides a framework for you to analyze yourself. He encourages you to observe how your thoughts impact you, others, the world around you. It's about taking ownership of your mental garden and deliberately cultivating the thoughts you want to see flourish in your life.
So, as we conclude this deep dive into As a Man Thinketh, it brings us back to that initial question, doesn't it? How much control do you really have? Based on this book's powerful assertion that the world is your kaleidoscope reflecting your thoughts. Well, what kind of picture are you currently creating?
Good question.
And perhaps more importantly, what kind of picture might you choose to create moving forward? Now understanding perhaps a little more deeply that the power to shape that picture lies within you. It's definitely something to consider.